Welcome back, my lords and ladies, to the Cast Beyond the Wall. We are your guide to all things Westerosi, and we're here to bring you a review, analysis, and fan v fan debate on each episode of HBO's hit show Game of Thrones. This week, we're discussing Season 6, Episode 2 of Game of Thrones, Home. I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and I want to remind you, listeners, I'm your host, Caleb Masters, and I've never liked being an only child. But enough of that. We have to introduce you to my co-hosts. They're living on the internet. For all I know, they don't actually exist. They're just voices that talk to me through the means of the internet. Let's start with my first co-host. Sir, can you introduce yourself?
I'm Austin Lucari. I drink and I know things.
Well played, Austin. Well played. That's actually semi-accurate. I know Austin won't have to do that. Semi-accurate. I don't know. The first part is definitely true. I'm gonna add the second part, maybe a little bit. But enough of that.
Questionable.
Austin Lucari, a very well-read, very smart drinking man. My other co-host, sir.
I am Daniel Stoll, and now that Jon Snow's back, that means the rest of the Starks are coming back too, right?
Oh, come on,
We
dude.
now know that it's possible. Everybody's coming back.
Right.
I need more conviction.
They're all coming back, man.
Rob is coming back. He's gonna ice zombie this thing with his head, his wolf body self is gonna come back. Wouldn't that be sick? Like in the season finale, you see all these dead Starks come back from White Walker form.
I'm telling you, man.
The only Starks that come back are the ones whose dogs are still alive. I think that's the rules. So,
that would mean Sansa is pretty much Sansa's pretty much screwed from the get go. Then,
yeah, she's gonna die.
Yeah, she's gonna die. No. Hey, Sansa had some good stuff going on this episode. You shut your mouth. We're going to recap every scene of this episode, give some thoughts, opinions. We're going to debate Home. Now, I want to remind you, if you're listening, though, that we are podcasting alongside our good friends, My Home, and our gracious host at the Good Trash Media Network. The Good Trash Media Network is a website dedicated to taking your experience of watching films and TV beyond the screen and onto whatever listening device you might have, whether it be an iPad, iPhone, laptop, computer at work, your car, whatever the case may be. Why? Because at Good Trash Media, we believe that TV and film are so much more than just 90 minutes in a bucket of popcorn, or in this case, 60 minutes in a glass of fine Dornish wine. Good Trash Media had some really exciting stuff going on this week. Firstly, I think I heard a rumor tomorrow they have a Captain America Civil War review going up. I think it's going to be kind of a big deal. You might have heard of the film. Maybe. Just maybe. And also, there was a huge Patreon relaunch this week. They've got a lot of new information, updated rewards out there. I know Austin Lucari is a patron of Good Trash Media. He's got a nice little T-shirt, a film of his choice on his way out. So Good Trash Media is trying to raise funds so that we can produce more content like the Cast Beyond the Wall for the website, and we really hope you guys will check that out at www.patreon.com/GTM, because you know what, we like doing podcasts, we like talking to you guys, and we like to hear what you guys have to say. So the best way you can help us out, so we continue to listen to what you have to say and talk about it, is to contribute at patreon.com. On the note of people talking to us, we did get a couple different pieces of feedback this week from our first episode, our recap of The Red Woman. Can you guys believe that? People actually want to talk to us.
I mean, I'm not sure I want to hear it, though. Just saying.
Get over yourself. Oh, my God.
I want to hear it. I want to hear what everyone has to say.
Austin, we're not all hermits. Some of us like to talk to the people who actually listen to our show, okay? Some of us like our listeners, okay? On Good Trash Media, obviously, if you're familiar, one of the co-founders and contributors on Good Trash Media is none other than Alexandra Bohannon, who is also an avid Game of Thrones listener, average Game of Thrones watcher, and happens to listen to the Cast Beyond the Wall. Thank you for sending this little response in, Alex. And she just wanted to talk to us a little bit about some of the ways that we talked about things and approach things. And I'm not gonna read the whole message because she gave us a very thorough kind of breakdown. I hope you guys had a chance to read it. But she said she talked specifically about in the scenario with Dany. She said that I disagree about the motivation of why they, quote unquote, respect Daenerys Dothraki. If you guys recall, the Dothraki, like all of a sudden, as soon as they found out she was the widow of Khal Drogo, they're all like, "Oh my God, we can't touch you. That would be awful." And she says that the only reason that they stopped doing that is because she's the wife of Khal Drogo. And she says it's actually not really respect, but more derogatory. In fact, she says it's actually objectifying her even more than what was presented. She says by the end of the scene, they aren't respecting her the status as a ruler or as a person, but rather more as a piece of property. They respect the tradition of respecting a cow's possessions, but not necessarily respecting them as people, which is what she was trying to get at. And I think we were kind of laying that direction here on the Cast Beyond the Wall ourselves, but maybe we didn't make that clear. That yes,
I think she put it more eloquently. Personally,
no, I think she did too. Alex laid it out there pretty straight. That guess what, guys? She's only respected because she's a piece of property, which is further objectification than what the Dothraki already do. And so it's just something to understand that just because in that culture you respect someone does not mean you respect them for the right reasons.
And what's worse, it was property of a dead person. So like, I don't know, for some reason in my mind, that's even like a little worse that you won't. I don't know. Just makes it even worse to me. It's property that you're always going to be owned. You know?
Yeah, you're eternally property. You're eternal property to Khal Drogo, right? Which is, I think that's very demeaning, actually. Now, I'm not going to read the whole thing. She gave us some really great feedback. Something else I want to bring up that she mentioned. She was just talking about how she also was confused about the Dorne thing. Now she was pretty certain that under the impression that Trystane was in the castle at Dorne, but there was follow up in this episode, also hinting at the fact that the ship was in King's Landing when Jaime's all like, "Oh, Trystane, who killed him? Did Cersei kill him?" Hinting at the fact that Trystane was in fact in King's Landing.
The most recent theory about that I've heard. And there's a lot of evidence that I think supports this, is that Trystane was on the boat. They hopped on the boat in King's Landing as it was on its way back. So they didn't ride all the way to King's Landing from Dorne with him. They hopped on it when it was on its way back to Dorne.
But he wouldn't be going back. You don't understand. He was being held like as a political prisoner. He wasn't going back to Dorne. It's like the same way that they took. That's the same way they took Myrcella. Like, they traded, or the way that the Starks took Theon as a warden. Like that's what was going on. He was not intended to go back to Dorne.
Fair.
All I'm saying is that the fact that we're even having this conversation, maybe we all disagree on where this was actually at. The fact that Benioff and Weiss could not establish where this location was at, and that it was super unclear and ridiculous, further hints to the point that yes, that whole storyline is extremely problematic. That's a little bit of feedback we got from last week's episode. What do you out there listening? What do you like? Where you can let us know what you think of our discussion here today, where you can kind of throw your theories out there, or where you can ask us questions that we'll read on the air right here at this in this little reader feedback section. Head on over to Facebook.com/GoodTrashMedia or tweet at us at good_trash. What is your thoughts, your theories, and your opinions on Game of Thrones Episode 2, Home? We want to know what you guys think about our conversation and your thoughts on the episode. Contact us there. But enough about that. Gentlemen, I think it's finally time for us to go ahead and review this week's episode, Home.
Get out of my way.
King's orders, Your Grace.
You don't know which way she went.
I spent 3 days looking for her. She disappeared.
We know where she's going. Castle Black isn't defended on the southern side. They could storm the castle.
You would spill blood in this holy place.
Well, the gods spill more blood than the rest of us combined.
Gentlemen, welcome. It's time for us to go ahead and give our kind of initial thoughts on Episode 2, Home, before we kind of get into the scene-by-scene recap here. And I'm really excited to hear what we all have to say. I think this is a really excitable episode. We're going to start with you, Mr. Daniel Stoll. What did you think of Season 6, Episode 2, Home?
I thought this was a spectacular episode. Lots of things happened, and it was still exciting to watch. It was really busy, but it never felt rushed. It felt like it flowed really well with all the stuff that was going on. So I thought the pacing was very well done. I thought there were a lot of callbacks to prior seasons, which we'll talk about, but definitely made references to Season 2, Season 1, with several of the characters and imagery there. So, but yeah, it was a very exciting episode.
I cannot believe what happened in this episode. I'm sure you guys are all thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
The
right.
Greyjoys
Jon
are
Snow's back.
Celebrate good times. Come on. Do.
But
Yeah, you
Jon
guys dancing with me? I know you are.
Yeah, Jon Snow's back. I'll dance to some Jon Snow.
I
Here.
refuse.
Oh, you meant the Greyjoys are back. Oh, well, screw that. No one wants that.
Well, who else would I be talking about? Come on.
Jon Snow, he's
on,
back.
there's-
Jon Snow, Bran's back. Look at all the Starks that are back,
Bran-
Austin.
Bran I'll accept.
We,
I'll accept Bran.
We got to see Ned.
We got to see Yara. And we got to see
got
a
a
new
hug?
badass Greyjoy. Okay?
Whose name?
This guy,
Who's not?
this
Whose
guy
name?
knows what's up. He's just throwing people off bridges. Doesn't give a fuck. In all seriousness, great episode. We had some complaints last episode. We're like, are they going to drag things out more? They kind of rushed a few storylines. I think we're starting to see a little bit of payoff now, finally. And I think very much so. It looks like things are going to be rolling at a much more fast pace going forward. And I'm very much looking forward to it and getting into this discussion here.
I too, actually, all jokes aside, I was really excited to see the Greyjoys back because, guys, I have been sitting on freaking Balon Greyjoy's death forever. Forever. In fact, it's been so long that I actually made an on-air reference to it in the first season I ever recorded of this podcast in 2013.
Shows how much I listen.
That was What, you asshole? You weren't listening? That was 2013. That was in our prequel season that will never ever hear the airwaves. We'll never see the airwaves again because it was definitely a prepo. But we talked about it. We were like, all right, when's this going to happen? When's it going to happen? And guess what? It didn't happen.
It was funny. It was funny because in that you made a reference, like you're like, oh, what if you just fell off a bridge or something? And we were all like, oh, that's not going to happen. That's silly, Caleb. And then hey, turns out you were right.
Yeah, no, it was pretty funny. It was pretty priceless. That was back in the early days when I would like give you guys spoilers that I knew you would never believe. So I would just nonchalantly drop them in there, and you guys would be like, that's ridiculous. That'll never happen. And you know how that goes. So yeah, I was really excited to see some Greyjoys come back. Bran, guys, my theory is coming true. I'm so excited. Bran's powers being used to travel to the past and see memories of the past, I should say. Very exciting. We get to see the Stark family, early Stark family, Eddard Stark. So we got reference to characters I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about here in the next few weeks. So we get to learn more about, obviously, not only is Eddard, a.k.a. Ned Stark, back, but we also got reference to Lyanna, who has only ever been referenced before. We got to see her introduced to her in the flesh, sort of. And we got a reminder that Benjen still exists. Remember Benjen, who disappeared in Season 1 Beyond the Wall? He still exists, guys,
Yeah.
maybe.
I was thinking that exact thing. I was like, look, they acknowledged that Benjen's around. Gendry's next.
Gentry's not he's still rowing that boat, Austin. He's got a long way to go. It's an Olympic sport he's made it into, rowing that boat. But no, it was really cool. A lot of callbacks. I really dug pretty much every storyline this week, and I think it is a very busy episode. A lot happens. But you know what? I think you're right, Daniel. I don't feel like it was ever too much or too jam-packed. Like I felt like every storyline felt like it had just enough time to do what it was going to do and breathe a little bit and have some sort of, impactful moment there. What I really think is interesting is you guys are both saying like, oh, it paid off this week. I disagree. I think this is and again, I'm not trying to cheapen what's going on at all, and this is not a criticism, but what I think is this is a very flashy table setting episode. It is still setting things up. We're going to see, like the fact that we saw the flashbacks, that's only a setup. That's not the payoff. We're going to see more. They're going to be a lot more interesting. Cersei with Frank and Clegane hanging out in the city against the army, that was cool. That's set up. That hasn't gone anywhere yet. Jon Snow coming back from the dead, obviously, still set up. Like, so all these things are very, very cool and good, but I don't feel like we have not even begun to touch the payoff that I think we're going to get. Balon Greyjoy getting thrown off a bridge, really cool, really awesome, still set up though. This is still them. This is still the writers, Benioff and Weiss putting the chess pieces into place for where we're going to go for the rest of the season. I think.
It was a delicious episode, and I gobbled it up faster than Sam eating a hot pie.
What the hell, Austin? Why are you doing this? Hey, for the record, Austin, we got two, you've been blessed, my friend. We had 2 episodes without Sam Walter episode in a row. Okay, you know that.
I'm hoping it turns into a Bran season where he just doesn't appear. It's gonna be great.
You know, I wouldn't mind it, actually. I'm not going to lie. But he's not going to eat hot pie, you bastard. Okay. I just think this was a really great episode, but I don't want you guys to I don't want you guys to mistake really cool stuff for payoff, because I still, as cool as all this stuff was, this is not payoff. This is all still set up for where we're going in season 6. I'm convinced. Did we mention that Tyrion unchained dragons and didn't get torched? Anyway, let's go ahead and head right into this kind of a recap episode this week. And of course, speaking of Tyrion, why not just go ahead and start off the second week in a row? We're going to start off with Tyrion and Mereen. And we got a really fun kind of, again, not super eventful, but just a fun little exchange between him and Varys, where Varys is basically all like, yeah, so guess what, guys? There's not really any more wars going on in Slaver's Bay. Astafor and Yunkai are all peaceful because the Masters took them back over. So I guess the joke's on us. We're the last really quote-unquote free city left. And that's when Tyrion gets the bright idea, well, hey, it's because those dragons are chained up down there. Maybe we should help them out.
This is an interesting kind of scene here. To me, it was a little unbelievable in that the dragons just immediately trust him, having never met him. The internet is claiming that this means Tyrion is part Targaryen, which I think is I give no credence to that. That's nonsense.
That's a very popular fan theory, by the way.
No,
there's some weird kind of logical stuff, like how easily he was able to pull out the pin. That pin would have shaken loose a long time ago. But all that aside, between the exchange that he has with Varys and kind of we start to learn a little bit about how Slaver's Bay is kind of returning to its former, I don't want to say glory, but returning to its former self. We start to really look at how the tactics employed by Daenerys and the tactics that Tyrion is trying to implement are very different. And we'll get to see whether or not Tyrion's strategy is a lot better. But really, Daenerys was very much a conqueror. She just came in, she enforced her will upon people, she destroyed things, she tore things down, but she never really won the hearts of the people. She never really bought into the culture and utilized diplomacy very well. Yes, the slaves left her because they were freed, but aside from that, she didn't really win over people on the whole. So it'll be interesting to see how Tyrion's strategy kind of differs from that, and if it's going to work or not. I think he is trying very much to buy into the culture of people, learn about the city a little bit more. But at the same time, he understands what won the city. He understands what the people respect, and he refuses to let those things stay locked in a dungeon.
I honestly don't want to spend too much time of us rehashing what she did wrong. Daenerys has done right and wrong in Slaver's Bay, because we literally have spent ever since this podcast started, 3 seasons of this show talking about the things she's done wrong. So it's not really worth meriting, but I do think you raise a great point, Austin. Can Tyrion do something different to turn this thing around, or is this a lost cause? That's really the big question I have. I'm more on the side of this is a lost cause and she just needs to move on, but Tyrion is kind of a mastermind politician, and he also has a real knack. He has empathy. He understands what makes people the way they are, and he genuinely, I think, wants to help them as long as they're not, evil or trying to kill people. He's got a real skill for that. I mean, you can even go back to season 1 where you remember how he was able to somehow reason with the mountain people. I don't know, Daniel, did you have any real opinion to weigh on? Do you think this is a lost cause, or do you think Tyrion could really turn this around?
I think if anyone could turn it around, it would be Tyrion. I have a lot of faith in him in that. That's the question, right? The other questions have changed. Can we keep this city a free city, or is it just going to fall back like the other cities? Interesting little note that all of Daenerys's work just was for naught. Like it all went back to the way it was. So everything she did, didn't have a permanent effect on it. And so yeah, I think that Austin hit it on the head. I think that we're going to see, can Tyrion do something that Dany couldn't? And I also think that this is clear evidence that Tyrion is going to be the second person we see on TV riding a dragon.
You think Tyrion's going to ride a dragon?
I mean, the story writes itself. Tyrion the Imp, Dragon Whisperer, Dragon Rider.
How about this? Bran wargs into the dragon. Tyrion rides the dragon. So Tyrion is riding Bran. Moving on. Moving on. Let's go ahead. I will comment on this, and I just want to give props to that show, the scene where Tyrion walks down to the dragons. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it was a really cool moment.
It seemed like a stretch, but
it's a stretch.
Well, it's kind of like he didn't really fully thinking about it. Almost like, guys, I'm going to show them that they're my friend, and then he's like, oh wait, these are dragons.
Yeah,
like, it felt like he didn't even think about it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was like. It was like he's like, I got an idea, and just ran with it without thinking it through at all. Like was he just drunk enough that he wanted to try it?
That's so against his character. Like that's why it doesn't make sense to me. Like he's the opposite of that type of person. So it's just weird.
Well, he does really dumb fun.
See.
He does do really dumb stuff from time to time. That's fun.
What it came down to, really, honestly, is they wanted to release the dragons. They could not think of another feasible way to make it happen. So they're like, let's just have Tyrion go down there and just do it. It'll be fine.
Well, and they have to find
they
need to find things for Tyrion to do too. So
that's true. It's true. I mean, it was very much a contrivance to, one, release the dragons, and two, as you said, include Tyrion in something.
But it was fun and it was cool. Okay, so
it was cool.
So let's go ahead and move on though to another kind of a quick little check-in here. Braavos. Hey guys, guess what? Arya's still blind, but this time she doesn't have a name.
Yeah, this time she's nobody.
Yeah.
Basically the only thing this scene really established is that she has moved on to the next step of her training. She has now taken the rose, that blue flower from the base of the mountain, and has entered the League of Shadows captivity at the top of the mountain, and now she's going to start training in a montage style thing. I saw the preview for next week. There's going to be a training montage, okay? It's going to happen. So that she has montage. Now. She's Jaqen Hagar, aka Ra's al Ghul, showed up to her, and she's all like, "Cool, I don't need food. I don't need shelter. I'm not Arya Stark anymore," which is cool. That's definitely a change from where we saw Arya last season, I guess. I don't know. Did you guys have any thoughts on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, not really. It was just hey, she's here, and she is going to go back now. He mentioned getting her eyes back, so maybe she won't be blind. But, I mean, this was the weakest part of the episode to me.
Yeah, he's blind forever for sure. That was just one of those test things. I mean, could he probably give them back? I bet he could, but she's never going to get them back.
It was just a pure test thing? There was no chance she's getting them back?
I think so. Yeah, I don't think she's ever going to have sight again. No, I think I think if they gave back her sight, that would be counter to the growth that she has had over the course of the past couple seasons. I think those scars and stuff that different characters bear are important to kind of show the growth of that character. She has not reached that growth yet, but I don't see her ever getting her sight back. I think the scars are important.
I guess I took him serious, but I mean, they could be.
I think Austin. I actually like your point there. I don't think the show is going to do that. I think she's going to get her sight back. But I like the way you're thinking. I actually think it would be a lot cooler if she didn't get her sight back for that very reason.
Yeah.
Like an eternal reminder that she did fail a test with the Faceless Men at some point. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and move on across the Narrow Sea and over to King's Landing. And guys, there's a new kid in town, and guess what? He does not like anyone trash-talking Cersei Lannister, that's for sure. Oh my god. Okay, so firstly, this scene, there's this guy just shit-talking like Jaime Lannister and Cersei Lannister, and I'm just confused. I'm like, why is this scene happening? What's going on? And at first I wasn't even sure if it was in King's Landing, but then you see Franklin Clegane just marching around, and that guy's taking a piss, which, by the way, that's the shadow of a dick is the closest thing we're ever going to get to a dick on this show, for the record.
I mean, we showed we've seen dicks several times in the show, for the record. We've seen Theon's dick, and we've seen the dick that was splashed at Cersei. Did we see Hodor dick?
We saw Hodor dick. We saw in season 1. Moving on beyond the dick talk, Franklin Clegane just creams that dude's head against the wall, like, intensely. Like, it was pretty hysterical. He just walks on by, and the guy looks up, he's like, bam, dead.
We got a lot of wall smashing this episode.
And it was all so wonderful. It made my Sunday night even better.
It did.
The only issue I had with it is it reminded me of a certain other person that he killed, and
It did.
Flashbacks.
I
it was
agree. I
rough.
immediately thought of Oberyn. I immediately thought of it.
Austin is having
that's another head crush.
Guys, Austin's having PTSD flashbacks over there.
You just keep him far away from the Greyjoys and maybe close to Sam.
He's not going to see Sam ever. I hope Sam. You know what? In fact, you know what I hope, Austin? I hope Sam kills him. I hope Sam kills Frank again. He killed a White Walker.
What's going to end up happening is me and Kev are just going to start 100% rooting for Sam just to spite Austin.
Hey, listen, Austin. He killed a White Walker.
Kind of like I root against Littlefinger just to spite Caleb.
Right.
Hey, Littlefinger was not in this episode, but I will be talking me some Littlefinger later in the episode.
I'm surprised we haven't seen him, to be honest, the first 2 episodes.
He does this every year. He like goes away for a while and then comes back and then like pulls the carpet out from under. And you're like, holy shit, this is why Littlefinger's.
It's kind of exactly his thing as a character. Yeah,
right.
exactly.
Like you forget about him. It's like, oh wait,
you've activated my trap card.
Don't worry, Littlefinger talk is coming. But now, okay, moving on to King's Landing, though, I think, they're just trying to establish that, yes, Franco Clegane is a very legitimate threat. And they followed up with it in that very next scene where you see Cersei, she's trying to go to Myrcella's wedding, and the Kingsguard tells her she can't go. And then I really was hoping that she would let him loose. There was like that scene where the King's Guard's like, no, I can't let you pass. And he really doesn't want to say that. And in his head, he's thinking, oh God, please don't kill us. Don't kill all of us. It was wonderful.
He's just following orders, man.
Well, the look in his face was beautiful. And it was terrifying. Great acting from soldier number 8 because he was wonderful.
Yeah. He's number 1 in my heart, Caleb.
For standing up to Franco Clegane?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, who's going to do that?
I mean, he only smelled a little bit of urine.
So anyway, I get the big takeaway from that scene, though, is that Cersei didn't get to go to her own daughter's funeral. Tommen, what the heck? I still don't quite understand why he wouldn't let her come, other than the fact that the High Sparrow just told him that she couldn't come, I guess.
He's just scared. He's scared. He wants to protect his wife, and he's a little kid.
Yeah, that makes as much sense as anything. But that does take
sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just say, if she doesn't come, then he doesn't have to worry about her getting like caught or whatever. Because the High Sparrow, was there. We saw him right after, So I think he was just trying to keep her safe. Like in his head, a child's head, he thought that was the way of keeping her safe.
Right. Well, I did. Speaking of that scene, I thought Jaime again. Finally, a quality scene for Nikolai Coster-Waldau after like a season of doing nonsense in Dorne. A great scene with him, just sitting there. Talking to Tommen, which was a really cool scene, even though Tommen still doesn't realize he's his daddy. It's kind of weird, but that scene between Jaime and the High Sparrow, where they had like a Mexican standoff, that was beautiful.
He was like, "You listen here, Bernie Sanders," and Bernie Sanders is like, "I got the 99% behind me. What are you gonna do?"
Bernie Sanders. I thought we established last week that Tyrion was Bernie Sanders. Austin, were you not paying attention?
I'm going with the High Sparrow now.
What?
He's
Why?
the new Bernie.
But Bernie Sanders actually cares about human beings. The High Sparrow is a religious zealot. Bernie Sanders is not.
He's talking about the people. You want to give power back to the people, the little people who have nobody. That's Bernie. That's Bernie talk right there.
Well, he is an old guy, and he looks vaguely like Bernie Sanders.
He looks like Bernie, vaguely.
So Jonathan Pryce is one day going to play in a biopic about Bernie Sanders. Gotcha. Hear it right now.
Do you know why we use these stones? To remind us not to fear death. We close our eyes on this world and open them on the next.
You must long for the next life.
In truth, I fear that too.
You imprisoned and humiliated my sister.
Your sister sought the gods' mercy and atoned for her sin.
What about my sins? I broke a sacred oath and stabbed my king in the back. I killed my own cousin. When the gods judged my brother guilty, I helped them escape that justice. What atonement do I deserve?
You would spill blood in this holy place.
Well, the gods won't mind. They spill more blood than the rest of us combined.
It's perfect.
Bam!
Love it.
Love that line.
line.
Those are the lines that Game of Thrones just hits me. I'm like, yes, this show knows what the hell it's talking about. And he's just alluding to the idea that people have killed far more in the name of any god than, what Jaime Lannister's about to do to that guy. He's like, yeah, you know what? You can say the gods are holy and valid, but guess what? We have spilt so much blood over these people. over
I think
our
that's
idea.
One of those. Sorry, I apologize. I think that's one of those lines, much like Littlefinger's line, where chaos is a ladder, that's really going to stick and kind of defines the show. The gods spilling blood really, really is a lot of what makes the show what it is, I think.
Well, and how all these different, I mean, throughout the history of the show, all these different characters are, in a way, using their own gods to justify their actions, right? Their own causes, their own ideas. And in this case, the Sparrow happens to actually use a literal god, as his kind of weapon. And that's what Jaime's saying. He's like, listen, man, your god is just another kill. It's just another thing there to propagate violence. So what I'm about to do to you is no different than what your quote unquote gods have been doing for hundreds of years. And just a really, really cool, powerful line where they're really, delving into kind of how the real world works. That like people are using all sorts of religious zealotry to, further their cause, which is really, really interesting.
I thought it was interesting that the High Sparrow said that he feared the mother, the father, and the warrior. And if you want to make some comparisons to who that might be, the mother might be Cersei, the father might be Jaime, and the warrior might be Clegane. So I thought that was kind of some interesting imagery. Maybe I'm trying to read too much into it. So maybe prophesizing his own downfall later this season or later in the show. I don't know.
Right. Now, the big question I have walking away from this scene is Jaime's presence in King's Landing going to make that big of a difference?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Because Jaime, I think, is going to empower and embolden Cersei in a lot of ways. Cersei kind of doing the walk of shame, I don't think would ever happen had Jaime been there. I think he would never have allowed that to happen. But I think Cersei was feeling extremely alone without him there. She didn't feel like support from anybody. She was kind of abandoned by Tommen, and she didn't really have anyone else to help her. I think with Jaime there's going to be a sense of unity among the Lannisters again, and I think a lot of things are going to change as a result.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Jaime. That it feels like there's a more united front against them. They have the ability to fight. So I definitely agree.
Gotcha. So just kind of looking here, I don't know. I mean, I think he does change things. He changes the dynamic and does give Cersei an extra bit of confidence. It is a little bit of a bummer for me that he's coming crawling back to Cersei, who has literally treated him like trash all the time. I'm actually really surprised at how that plaything went last. How they reconnected last week. I wasn't expecting that at all. Really, I thought she was gonna be a lot angrier at him. So I'm a little bummed because that's an abusive relationship, and I'm not too thrilled to see it get back in play. But at the same time, yeah, it's definitely going to change things up, which is really cool. We need to hit up the north. So we're going to start up with Bran, who we haven't seen in well over a year, since the end of Season 4. He's back, and we see what he's been doing. He has been learning how to master and hone his ability to see the visions.
He's figured out how to make his 9-year-old self's clothes grow.
Well, yeah.
Which is pretty impressive, I think.
Naturally. And his haircut, too. Don't forget the haircut.
Yeah, that's right.
So, yeah, dude, that actor is way outgrowing himself. That character, I was talking to someone about this last night before watching. I was like, man, this actor looked like a baby when he started. Now he's like a full-grown man already, gone through puberty and everything, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah, him and Ollie are evidence of why Game of Thrones needs to kill off characters quickly. Basically, because they just look ridiculous now that they've grown so much.
Even Maisie Williams, who plays Arya, is still pretty... She's a lot taller.
She is. She seems reasonable, though. Her growth seems, reasonable.
She hasn't changed much in the face, fortunately. But, her, she's gotten taller and everything like that. Just little things like that. But anyway... but the big takeaway here, end of the scene, is that we get to see flashbacks in Winterfell. Now, what did we get to see? First off, it was cool. We're back in Winterfell, not being overrun by Boltons. That's really cool. We get to see little Eddard Stark sparring with Benjen in the courtyard. Lots of fun. Really neat little throwback. And then we see their sister, Lyanna, who we've never seen on the screen before, by the way, pop up. That's Lyanna Stark, the one who started Robert's Rebellion, way back in the day, which is what put Robert Baratheon as king of the Seven Kingdoms in the first place. For those of you who might not remember,
she's a nobody. Don't worry about her, guys. You don't even need to listen to this.
They didn't just introduce her for no. They just introduced her for no reason.
No reason at all.
That's right. Don't even bother. Just forget you ever saw her and move on with your life.
But I think, guys, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to say about this other than, oh my God, it's so awesome. We're going to get to find out. This was a very clever way for them to use flashbacks without using flashbacks. Because they even said, if you watch them in a little, like, making of Game of Thrones thing, they really were reluctant to use flashbacks, but they felt the history with certain storylines was very, very important. And that's why I think this is very much a table-setting scene. Like, yeah, it establishes what Bran can do, but I want to see what he can really do and what he's really going to see with these powers. And so this is definitely a table-setting scene.
I agree. My concern is that they're going to use him as solely as a plot device. I hope that's not the case. I hope they use him as that, which is great, and I'm happy with it, but that he does more than that. And time will only tell if that's the case.
That's all they're going to use him with. I would imagine that's most of what he's going to be doing this season. But that doesn't mean that's all they're going to do with him. I think it's still going to be crucial to his character and what his role in the war to come is, really. So I certainly don't think this is purely for plot purposes. I think it works for both the plot and the character. We've yet to see that, but I think it's really going to work very, very well.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was really cool how they used the flashback. They did it from Bran's perspective. When a lot of times when you get flashbacks in stories, you see it from a character that's like flashing back to something that they did or before. We don't have that at all. We have Bran like overlooking a memory. I thought that was really cool how they played that off. And it made it feel almost like it wasn't a flashback.
Gotcha. No, I thought that was really cool that we got to see young Hodor. That was really, really neat. I dug that a lot.
Can we get Bran being his little Gary Cooper and just, what you talking about, Willis?
What you talking about, Willis? That's going to be his name forever.
What you talking about, Willis? I want him to say that every time he says Hodor. What you talking about, Willis?
Hodor?
I mean, Bran even questions, he's like, what happened to him? Like, so I feel like there's something there that's going to be fairly significant for us to know.
Yeah, Hodor? It's going to be a big thing. I imagine it has something to do with Ned and kind of a lot of the build-up, I think, to Robert's rebellion. I'm imagining Hodor gets caught up in that in some way and ends up being a victim of it. Because they hint at that a little bit, right? We see, look, he can fight. He's really strong. Let's teach him to fight. So I'm assuming he is pushed into a situation that he's not prepared for and is basically harmed as a result, both mentally and physically.
I get the sense that it's like terrible somehow.
Yeah, I'm imagining it's probably not going to be fun to watch.
Yeah.
We'll see. I guess that would be kind of a neat. I mean, neat's probably not the right word, but I didn't even think about that. I just assumed. I honestly just assumed that was just kind of a neat little Easter egg with Hodor. I didn't really feel like they'd flesh that out, but hey, I could be wrong. Only other thing I really want to mention, and just so listeners know, kind of address it, is that Mira is now stuck there. Poor Mira, she's just kind of hanging out there. Doesn't really have much of a choice, but her brother's dead. So yeah, poor Mira. But let's go ahead and hit over to Winterfell, where it was also a very eventful happenings. Guys, guess what? We called it a week ago.
We called it. Let it be known here today that we were right. At least this one time.
I did not expect it to happen nearly as fast as it did.
Look, there's a lot of things that happen in this episode that I did not expect to happen as quickly as they did. But we called all of them because we're geniuses.
I do like how they set that scene up, though. Okay, I was really interested in how it was going to play out. Now, we did call Ramsey, but the way that scene played out was really great. Because, first off, you have the Karstarks show back up for no reason, which, holy crap, that was really random. Like, I was watching the previously on, and it's like, flashback to season 3 of the Karstarks. I was like, what the heck, dude? That's such an obscure family to go back to.
I love it when they do that. You're like, I guess we're visiting the Karstarks today.
I was like, why is that important at all?
They do. Every once in a while, they'll do that. They'll like, one day we'll see Gendry, like, in the previously on, he's just rowing there. And like, well, I guess we're going to find out what happened to him.
Right. Again, it's another callback to other seasons, 3 seasons ago. So just another time where they had a callback.
Right. So, I mean, you've got that kind of neat callback there. But anyway, he's there. So Ramsey's like, dude, we don't need the rest of the North. We don't need a Stark because we got everybody. We got 4 families, dude. We got 4. We got this. We're smart. We got this. And Roose is all like, dude, you don't know what you're talking about, kid. You're stupid. If you actually want to really hold the North, which that's really been Ramsey's deal the whole long, is he's always thinking so short term. So he's all like, oh, well, of course we can hold the North. So anyway, I say all this to say that I was surprised that when the news broke, the way that it unfolds is real interesting because you're like, oh, we gave birth to a boy. And I was all like, oh, shit. Well, we know what's about to happen. But I love how it happens. You see Ramsey, just this look on his face is all like, oh, shit. Like, he just has that moment. And then he's like, congratulations. Now, the way the camera works, I thought it was brilliant. They get right, they embrace each other. And my thought was, and I was waiting for, someone's going to get stabbed. And I legitimately was not 100% sure who was going to stab who. I was like, ah!
I agree. I wasn't even sure in the moment who was stabbing who.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. When it's happening, I was like, wait, did Ramsey just get... I couldn't determine for a second which one it was. So I agree that it was really well done there.
Does the show really need to tell us that Ramsey's a monster again? I mean, we kind of got it by now. Did you guys think that was really necessary for us to see him, feed the baby and what's her name to the dogs? I just was kind of over it by that time.
So I think it's an important scene because it shows the level at which Ramsey doesn't have any foresight, doesn't really think ahead, doesn't really know what kind of pawns he has in place. It's just wanton destruction constantly for him. And I think it's important that he killed Walder Frey's daughter because they were a close ally to the Boltons. And now I think probably Ramsey has successfully severed that ally, which I think was also a very powerful ally. So we'll see going forward. I think this is going to start the dominoes to Ramsey's downfall. He's going to take down a lot of people with him, but ultimately he's going to start cutting ties with all the people who Roose very carefully tried to build alliances with. And Roose wasn't perfect by any means, but he was a diplomat, at least in some way, and Ramsey is not that at all.
I don't know if I entirely agree. In terms of watching Ramsey have the baby killed, I don't feel like they could have shown us that told us that information plot wise any other way. I don't feel like they could have gone off screen and said, oh, by the way, Ramsey killed the baby. I feel like we had to see it, so I don't know. I understand what you're saying, and maybe it was over the top and like we already know that he's capable of doing something like this, but I don't feel like they could have. I feel like they had to show us. In terms of Ramsey not thinking ahead, I felt like there was a little bit of a hint that the way that the Karstark guy that was standing there, he didn't really seem surprised at all at what was happening, and so I felt like he had this planned, at least with the Karstark, that he knew what was going on, and so I thought that hinted a little bit at Ramsey's already talked to some people, and he's already got this, at least some people on his side, and moving forward with killing Roose and his plan to hold the North, whatever that may be.
The analogy of the mad dog, I think, is pretty important too. I mean, Roose talks about, if you act like a mad dog, people are going to treat you like a mad dog. And then we immediately go to a scene in which he murders everybody with a bunch of mad dogs. I think he very much confirms in that scene that he is one with them. That's who he is, and he's never going to be anything else.
Right. No. Again, short thinking. He's like the Joker, in Dark Knight, when he's talking about, dude, if I'm a dog chasing cars, I wouldn't know what to do if I caught one. That's Ramsey Bolton. Like, he literally has no real goals. Yeah. He thinks short term. He can't think any further than one step ahead. So what he's doing is just, it's not long term. And this is just the end of the Bolton house. And I said this in the preview episode, and I'm sticking by it. Like, this is the end of these guys. Like, there's only so many places they can go. And you guys, I'm so excited because you know what this means, right? You know what this means? Okay, so Littlefinger's got an army, and he's marching north. He's marching north. Gosh. And you know who's going to have a really big-ass army really soon that's going to be marching south from the wall, right? Uh-huh. All right? So what I'm saying is, best team-up in Game of Thrones history ever, Jon Snow and Littlefinger working together. Oh, my God. This is the team-up I've been waiting to see forever. I didn't even know I wanted it, but it's totally going to happen. They're going to have 2 epic armies, and then they're going to march south.
I don't know if I can see Jon Snow honestly teaming up with Littlefinger, though. I don't feel like I could see him trusting him at all.
No, not at all.
Oh, he'll trust him.
Jon Snow's smarter than that.
I don't think. I think
he's no Sansa, is what I'm getting at here.
No, and Sansa's not going to trust him much either. So I don't. I think here's the thing: Jon Snow is not going to trust him any more than any other characters distrusted Littlefinger. Nobody actually trusts Littlefinger. They all want him on his side, right? So Cersei doesn't trust Littlefinger, but she still trusts him. I mean, Catelyn, maybe she might have trusted Littlefinger a little bit. Ned trusted Littlefinger, but those are Starks. My point being, though, most characters in Game of Thrones, even the Tyrells to some degree, trusted him at one point, even though they know he's not trustworthy. I think Jon's going to do the same thing. I think they're going to team up. They're going to take Winterfell back. I don't know where it's going to go from there or what Littlefinger's next move is going to be, but I think that's where we're going to see that storyline heading. I'm very excited. I could be totally wrong. I'm just, for Team Baelish, taking it all the way, guys. He's going to win. He's going to win. But also in the north, we had a little catch-up with Sansa, Theon, and Brienne all up in the north, and Brienne is actually talking to Sansa about how she saw Arya. That was kind of a neat little connection, right? Like, oh, hey, cool. I did see your sister. We split ways. She ran away from me because she didn't trust me, but I saw her and she was in okay shape a few months ago, which I guess is somewhat reassuring to Sansa, right? And that is kind of cool. The Starks never actually directly meet up, but they hear about each other a lot, which is always interesting. So, but outside of that, though, I think the bigger takeaway is the scene, the exchange between Theon and Sansa. Really meaningful, poignant scene, right? Sansa's willing to accept his forgiveness, which is crazy. I mean, crazy. I mean, and again, this is another thing as a watcher, been watching the show since season one. We never thought we would have gotten to this point with Theon, but here he is. He has hit rock bottom, and I don't want to see anything more than to him seek forgiveness and redemption with the Starks. He's like, you know what? I don't deserve forgiveness. He's like, the things I did were so awful, I don't really deserve forgiveness, and the only place I really have to do is go back home. Which he doesn't belong there either, but that's the decision he made in season 2, and now he has to live with it. But it was really cool. It was really meaningful and emotional, and I really like that character is getting redemption and has shown a deep understanding for the mistakes he's made. Redemption is a beautiful thing, and we don't get to see nearly enough of it on Game of Thrones. So to see Theon to have that kind of exchange with Sansa actually accepting the forgiveness in the place of the Stark family, it just was a really powerful moment, and we don't get much like that on the show, so it was really, really nice.
Yeah, I think at this point, even if Theon doesn't really make it to royalty level again, if he doesn't make it back to his former glory, he is still at this point done enough where everyone kind of respects him again, and in that sense, he is very much already redeemed, I think. I hope, for the sake of him and House Greyjoy, that he is able to kind of return to eventually some sort of form of usefulness for the house. But I don't know that that's ever going to happen. Which brings us to a beautiful part of the show, the most beautiful part of the show. We actually get to go to Pike. We get to go to the Iron Islands and see the glory that is House Greyjoy. I just saw the towers and the bridges, and I couldn't contain my excitement. I really couldn't. Beth just looked at me and she goes, oh, she just gasps because she knows what's about to happen to my body right now. Okay, I just start trembling all over. I couldn't handle it.
Okay, we talked a little bit about at the top of the episode. I don't want to elaborate on it, but guys, and again, I don't want to be that guy who's constantly like, oh, and the books did this. Blah, blah, blah. I don't like talking like that. However, this is an event that happened a long time ago, like before Robb Stark died.
It might as well have happened then, because we haven't visited the Greyjoys in like years.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it literally happens before Robb Stark dies. So there was a point in season 3 where I was like, oh, he might get blown off the bridge. And it's funny the way it's executed in the book, because again, it's like, from that limited first person perspective. All it is you get a letter that Balon got blown off the bridge by wind. So it was all like, that was it. Like, we didn't hear about this conspiracy, and it works perfectly.
It's a great. I really liked this series of scenes. One, first of all, House Greyjoy, best fireplace of all houses. Okay, it's freaking sick. Go back and look at it. It's got like an octopus all wrapped around the fire. It's great. Okay. Second, we get to see House Greyjoy won the War of the Five Kings. Okay. they might have lost everything they held within the North, but they won the War of the Five Kings, and that's really the important thing.
No, they didn't. They didn't win anything. I mean, they're the last. They're maybe the last man standing, but
they won.
But no,
Well, they won.
but they didn't take any.
They
didn't take any lands. They ran back to Pike with their squid arm tucked underneath their ass. I don't know whatever squids do. You know, they went back. They didn't do anything. They didn't accomplish anything, Austin. So I don't care if they quote unquote won. Balon Greyjoy is a loser. He's so much of a loser that he got blown off the bridge by the gods.
So what you're telling me is that they won, but Yara is a little upset, right? She's like, "Look, we took all these lands in the North, and we've lost all of them because we've done nothing to protect them, and you kind of suck as a king, Balon. You suck, and you might end up paying the iron price because you suck." Yara very much would be probably a great ruler by all accounts. She's going to be kind. She cares for her people, her family. She's a good warrior. Would be much better suited than Balon. Unfortunately, we might be denied that because Balon's brother shows up and just takes everything over. What's that about, guys?
Just throws him off the bridge.
I mean, I support the decision. I do, because Balon wasn't really cutting it. And I kind of like this guy. I like how badass of a pirate he is.
Austin, I just get a text as soon as this episode's done. I like that guy. He speaks my language. What language do you speak, Austin? Remind me never to cross a bridge with you ever again in my life.
So, look. I mean, you are my brother.
I know. I'm doubly
not cutting it. I might just throw you off the bridge.
Austin, I'm gonna have to rain check that family Christmas Thanksgiving thing forever. So have a good life.
Did we ever find out his name? Did they actually ever say it?
They don't speak it. If you're a person who reads anything that's going on, you pretty much know his name, or if you're a book reader, you know his name. But no, the show has not specified his name. Therefore, we will keep that shit on lockdown. What we will not keep on lockdown though is a king's moot. Now they allude to a king's moot in this episode. Yara thinking that, again, that Westerosi bloodline, that she was going to inherit the throne. Guess what, Austin? They sure don't do it that way in Pike. They don't do that way in the Iron Islands. They actually have a democracy where people vote, and you run to be the king of the Iron Islands. And so I don't want to get too much detail about King's Moot, but that's what a King's Moot is. They referenced it twice in this episode, and I was like, no, the people need to know what is a King's Moot. And what it is...
I was hoping it was trial by combat.
Oh, God, honestly. That'd be sick. How about trial on the sea with boats?
Yeah. Oh, that'd be sick. It'd be so sick.
What have you done, Caleb? What have you done?
That would be so cool.
I want it like full on, like Pirates of the Caribbean. Was it 2 or 3? Where there's like a whirlpool in the middle, and they're like sailing around, firing at each other.
That's the King's Moot, Austin. Yeah, exactly. Except for not really. So we're not going to get that. So don't get your hopes up, okay?
No, it's more like just a bunch of talking and nonsense. No one wants to listen to.
It's gonna be like America, yo. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. More political jokes about that coming soon.
Well, but it did reinforce. So one of the things when they introduced the King's Moot as like a concept, they did kind of hammer down like, look, you're a woman, and you really have no chance here because no woman has ever ruled the Iron Isles. And no matter how much you've done or what you've done for the people or even how much the people like you, there's no way they're going to elect you as king. And so you might as well just go figure something else out because you're not going to be king.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. It's, again, like, oh, yeah, you're a woman, you're free to run. But we're a very sexist society, so of course you're not going to get elected. But yeah, go ahead. You have a shot.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it is like America, right? Like everyone has the right to do whatever they want. However, cultural norms and prejudices are going to keep any like certain groups of people from ever really having a chance.
Oh yeah, because they're not the ones in power. People don't want to see that. They don't want to see a change in the paradigm or a change in the status quo. We want old white dudes rolling.
We would rather have the crazy guy who had to be tied to the mast.
Yeah, and cut the tongues out of his crew. Well, out of he cut the
because
tongue.
He needed silence.
That's a man you can respect. Silence.
Okay, Austin, this guy speaks your language. I am the first storm and the last storm. I am beginning and the end.
Like silence.
I am the drowned god.
Everyone praise our Lord and Savior Cthulhu, okay?
All right. Enough of that Cthulhu nonsense. We gotta wrap this show up very fast.
Well, I think that's it, guys. Right? That's the end of the show.
That's it. Yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening.
What a
appreciate your
cliffhanger.
time here.
Nothing else important happened.
Nope.
What a cliffhanger. Oh, except
The biggest reveal ever.
yes.
Sorry.
All right. So Jon Snow is back, but first, I don't want to overstate this. The best scene was when Braavos is all like, I'm not much of a fighter. I hate to see you. And he pulls his sword out, and then all of a sudden you hear the bang on the wall. And I was sitting there out loud, vocally saying, there were other people in the room. I was doing this, being like the best, watcher friend ever. I was like, oh my god, a giant's gonna bust down the wall.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing. I'm like, giant.
As a giant's gonna bust it down. And there he was in his full glory, the giant. Oh my god! And it didn't disappoint either. That whole thing was great. Thorne's like, attack, you cowards! And then the dude fires the arrow, and the giant just crushes that dude against the wall. Oh my god!
He went like full Hulk and Loki right there, where he just starts smashing him on the ground.
Props to the guy for not being a coward and fighting like his commander told him to.
Yeah, his commander, right? who killed the other Lord Commander. Don't you love it? I love how Thorin says, "You're a bunch of bloody traitors." Wait, but you guys just killed the Lord Commander. Like literally, you just killed him.
He's like, "You're a traitor." Actually, you're the traitor that killed our commander. So I don't know what you're talking about.
I think what we were denied in that scene was really that Ollie wasn't the one who shot the arrow, as he did.
Okay, man. I'm gonna make my stand right here. People need to get off Ollie's back.
All right, I'll hear the man out. I'll hear the man out. Listener, hear the man out. Hear him out.
Okay. I've seen all these posts like F Ollie, F this. Think about this, guys. Okay. Ollie is a kid who saw his parents get killed by Tormund.
The potato farmer.
By the man. The
potato farmer.
Yes. Saw his parents get killed by that guy, and when he goes to the wall, Jon brings the guy that killed his mom and dad, walks him in and says, you're going to be friends with this guy. No, like, you cannot expect Ollie to just say, okay, that's fine. I'm going to jump on the board with my murder, the guy who murdered my parents. So of course he's going to go and kill Jon, trying to force him to be friends with the murderer. What are you talking about? So people need to get off Ollie's back.
Two things.
Everything he's doing makes sense. Let Ollie be. He's just a kid, man. He's just a kid who wants his parents back.
Two things. It was the Thins that killed his parents, and they're dead. Second, Ollie is a grown-ass man now because he has murdered people himself. He stabbed Jon Snow right in the chest, and he attempted to stab another person in this scene before he was incapacitated because he's a weak, stupid little child.
He tried to kill Tormund because he was there. He was there when his parents killed all his whole village of people. If you can understand where he's coming from, back off, Ollie, man. Back off.
If this scene worked out like it should have worked out, I could have been spreading Ollie jelly on my toast right now, and it'd have been great.
Whoa. We just crossed a line, Austin. We just crossed a big line. You're talking about smearing Ollie blood all over your skin? Oh, my God. Whoa. Where did we cross the line? All right. Hell, I'm going to be the...
Jelly.
Boys.
Different. It's a
flesh? Flesh? Is that what we're talking
monster.
About? Okay. All right. So, hold on. Let's calm down here, guys. I got to be the voice of reason on Ollie, okay? You're both wrong. Okay, here's why. Stoll, Austin, you're wrong because Stoll's kind of right. Ollie did see a bunch of wildlings kill his parents, and Tormund was there, and Jon Snow's lover was there. But you know what, Stoll? You're wrong. Westeros, the last freaking thing it needs on this show is another goddamn Batman, okay? Oh my god, I saw my parents murdered at a young age. Oh, I'm gonna carry it around for the rest of my life until I get that vengeance. No, we've seen it done, Game of Thrones. Let it be. Arya's gonna be Batman, okay? Move on. I'm tired of the Batman analogies. Let's get on. So you know what I gotta say about this, guys? Just let Ollie be. Just let him go. What they're gonna do, set him free north of the wall and let him go deal with the White Walkers, and we're all good. We're all good.
Or just kill him and we can all move on. It'd be great.
So, Ollie survives. Now, what we get following is Braavos turning to Melisandre, his former foe, and saying, hey, I know I said I don't believe in any of that Lord of Light stuff, but I was kind of wrong, because I've seen you do some cool stuff. But you know what? Can you bring Jon back from the dead? Because I need a new king to follow, and there's a pretty short list around these parts. so how about you bring him back from the dead? Can you do it? And she's all like, nah, I can't do it. He's like, come on, I bet you can give it a shot. And lo and behold, it worked.
What a pep talk.
It was a pep talk.
I mean, he was like, you're the woman who made me believe in miracles. Like, man, he was like really hyping her up.
He was hitting on her. He didn't know. He didn't know what happens when she stops drinking that potion.
Or is it wearing that?
He doesn't want to know.
Or is it wearing the necklace? Who knows? I don't even know anymore. Two people who have been at each other's odds now being forced to work together to be at each other's odds on Jon Snow's team. It's just really funny because they're just looking for a new kind of person to fill the Stannis void. I don't know.
But luckily, Jon Snow doesn't have a daughter to burn at the stake, so we won't have to go through that again.
He does have an Ollie, though. He does have an Ollie to burn at the stake.
I thought we moved beyond this, Caleb.
We're not talking about that again.
Okay, all right. So anyway, so the scene itself, the way it played out, was a little unexpected because I was so sure when Tormund's like, "All right, I'm gonna go round up some wood to burn him." I was like, yes, they're gonna try and burn him, and he's gonna emerge from the flames just like we talked about last week, and it's gonna be epic,
like Daenerys. Yeah,
exactly. I was literally waiting for it. I was like, all right, this is gonna be. But then I could just tell the way that scene was playing. One of two things was gonna happen: either exactly what happened, or they were gonna cliffhang us another week. And I was like, these people, they cannot cliffhang us another week. But I was sitting there, I was like, this is gonna be I just, sometimes when you're watching a scene, you just know this is the last scene. And I was like, all right, so if they don't resurrect him in this scene, it's not gonna be as cool as I imagined it. But if they don't do it in this scene, it's not gonna happen in this episode. And they did it in that episode. It was a little anticlimactic, I guess. Yeah.
The cliffhanger probably would have been more interesting, although lamer. However, it was pretty cliche the way they did it, where he like opens his eyes at the end of the episode and then it like cuts to black. I feel like we've seen that 100 times before.
I mean, we all know
was I excited about it? Yeah, I was really happy. They really played it up and did it really well with everyone kind of leaving the room and everyone walking out and kind of giving up on it, except the dog, because the dog knows things.
Felt like there was kind of a callback to Bran when he woke up, when he was paralyzed back in season 1. I felt like there was kind of some imagery there because we see Bran's eyes open and then the scene ends. So I thought maybe there was a little bit of callback to that. I thought it was interesting how they chose to leave the room. So the first one we see leave the room was Tormund. So he's kind of the first one to say, well, this didn't work, I'm out. And then I believe Melisandre is actually the second one to leave. So, again, she's in this place of where she doesn't believe. I really liked her please at the end. She says all the things in the language, in her different language, and then she just says please, like just please give me something to hold on to. I thought that was there was a lot going on.
She
there.
was so good. She's been so good in the past couple scenes she's been in. Just fantastic.
So then she leaves, and so you're left with Davos and Ed. Ed leaves the room, and then Davos he feels like he just hangs on. He's really hoping, but finally he gives in as well, and he leaves. I thought it was interesting how they all left the room in that order. And then, as you pointed out, Ghost, never willing to leave, stays by his side the whole time, wakes up, and then you have the cheesiness of Jon waking up.
Did you guys? So I don't know if this is just like Westerosi customs or not even just Westeros, just customs within this world, but the way they were preparing the body and stuff very much reminded me of the scenes with Arya.
Cleaning the body.
Yeah. And kind of trimming the hair and doing all the ritual and stuff. That's the thing she was doing with the bodies that she was working with. Do you think there's anything there as far as are these powers basically that the Faceless Men also have, or is that just kind of like typical like burial customs?
I think they're pretty standard burial customs. I mean, obviously, everybody's kind of got their own. Every country's kind of got their own flavor and their own way of doing things. But I mean, this is kind of a universal thing. The same way we have our bodies prepared when we are, dead right before we get shown for a proper ceremony or burial. It's just kind of what they do. They trimp the beard, they cut the hair, make it look a little cleaner. They clean it up. I mean, really not that much different from the way our own world works. We're just not used to seeing it, right?
I mean, we all know that's really why Jon woke up. They messed with his hair, man. If you touch that hair, of course he's coming back to life for some vengeance.
He probably felt a little draft too. I mean, it seemed like he wasn't. It might have been a little chilly down below, if you know what I mean.
I think the scene it was fine. It was executed just fine. It wasn't quite what I expected, which is part of the problem. I think I carried the weight of my own expectations into how they were going to bring him back, and it was relatively anticlimactic to my own imagination. Not to say it was well thought through. I think if you watch the whole how they did it following the episode, they kind of explained the method to having one person leave the room at a time and how they'd all kind of given up, and that was when again when everyone has hit rock bottom, in which we see Jon Snow emerge from the ashes like a phoenix, so to speak. So yeah, I that was the episode, though. Jon Snow, big cliffhanger. A lot of stuff going on this episode. We had 2 houses. So many coups this year, guys. So many coups this year. We had 2 houses that lost their leader today. So Balon Greyjoy dead and Ramsey Bolton dead, all within an hour. That's a pretty big deal.
We had a lot of family drama in this episode that is themed with the home title. As you said, Roose, Balon Greyjoy. You had the kind of reconciliation between Cersei and Tommen.
The reconciliation between Sansa and Theon too. Yeah,
true. That they are very much family and always have been, even if despite some of the things that have happened. It is very strong familial themes within this week's episode.
Kind of got a hint of like a death and resurrection theme. I feel like we saw Roose and Balon Greyjoy hit the dust. Maybe a kind of a weaker argument is the death of Arya. She's no longer anyone. Then we have at the end of the show, it all comes to a resurrection of Jon. So I saw weave in a theme of death and resurrection in there. Even maybe Theon a little bit coming back, who's no longer weak.
And even Franken Clegane, he's very literally like a resurrected being.
Right. So I felt like that there was some of that flowing throughout the episode as well.
And I do think just this idea of going back to your roots to figure out where you're going is really the key here, because you have Theon, who is now returning back to Pike to try and figure out how to figure his kind of sort of ways out. In a lot of ways, you see Cersei and Jaime heading back to the same place we saw them together in season 1, interdependent on each other back in King's Landing. So you've got a lot of that going on. And I really, really dug this episode a lot. I think as exciting as it was, I think it was just setting up. I still think that it is only setting up for the bigger moments to come later this season.
I am very thankful that it did not drag out the Jon Snow death thing for 4 episodes like I anticipated them doing. And that really gave me a lot of hope as with how this season's going to play out, with just moving the story along, getting things going, bringing new stuff to the table, rather than trying to stretch everything and stretch the drama and the anticipation. I'm happy with the first 2 episodes of how they're going so far.
I don't want to deter and say, oh, this is a bad episode because it's set up. What I'm trying to say is it's just still set. I guess I'm trying to be hopeful and say the best is yet to come. I think what we saw was really, really great in this episode, and really a lot of stuff happened, a lot of things moved, but I think ultimately the bigger reveals, the bigger plot twist, the way in these a lot of story mechanics were introduced in this episode, and new characters were introduced in the episode that are going to set us on the path to what's going to be the big end game this season. So that's kind of what I'm getting at there. But
yeah, totally agree.
Let's go ahead and wrap the show, guys, by talking a little bit about Oathbreaker, next week's episode. Now, I do want to remind the good people of the Cast Beyond the Wall who are listening this week that we are a podcast as part of the Good Trash Media Network. You can find more of our Game of Thrones posts or anything else we talk about here online at www.goodtrashmedia.com. If you want to learn more about what we do with other TV shows, watching movies, we just started a wrestling podcast. Interesting, kind of a fun little thing we're dealing with right now. And also, if you think what we're doing here on the Cast Beyond the Wall is worthwhile, I really hope you'll consider contributing to Patreon, the Good Trash Media Patreon at patreon.com/GTM, so that we can raise more funds to do more stuff like the Cast Beyond the Wall. We've got a goal of $125. We're sitting about $20 away at this moment. We need before we can launch another podcast. So we really, really are hoping to do things like have dedicated studio space and have a really sick computer to edit on to make our jobs a whole lot easier, and it also allows for us to bring you guys all more really great content, and we even throw some t-shirts and some stickers and some cool swag in while we're at it. So check that out at patreon.com/GTM. Now, gentlemen, where can we find you guys online if people want to tweet at you about Game of Thrones this week?
Yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter. My Twitter handle is aclucari, Lucari. I don't really post a lot. Usually just retweeting some fantastic Good Trash Media content. Just retweeted an excellent article by our own Dustin Sells. Fantastic article on some Italian films that you guys should check out. But aside from that, just come back next week and listen to me ramble on about a bunch of nonsense.
Are you gonna, speaking of Italian stuff, are you gonna be eating like a pizza or spaghetti while doing the show? Or should we talk with Italian accents next week to celebrate Italian cinema? Is that what I'm hearing?
Pizza and American style spaghetti are definitely very traditional Italian dishes. And I know lots of Italian myself. I'm very fluent. So next week, everybody, all Italian episode. So bust out your Google Translate so you understand what we're saying.
These are just a few things we do here on the Cast Beyond the Wall. Full episodes in Italian, and we'll even be able to read you'll even be able to listen with a Dothraki translator. Mr. Daniel Stoll, where can people find you online?
They can find me at Daniel Stoll 23, DanielStull. Shoot me a tweet, and if you don't want to talk about Austin's obsession with the Greyjoys or his hatred of Sam, or you're tired of hearing Austin and Caleb argue about everything, I'd be more than happy to talk to you guys on Twitter.
So if you want to find me on the Twitter to tweet at me about how Daniel is still living in some sort of dream and not on planet Earth, or understands how Westeros works. If you want to talk to me about how the real world works, in the world of Westeros, you tweet at me at BigCalKenobi91, and we'll have some tweeting back and forth. And if you want to hear, I've got a little. If you guys like the Game of Thrones podcast and you like hearing what I have to do, I do have a podcast review on Good Trash Media for Captain America: Civil War going live. So if you really enjoy what we do here, I think you're really gonna have a lot of fun with Civil War. I'm really looking forward to talking about it and sharing my thoughts with you guys. To close out the show, we're just going to very briefly speculate about the title of next week's episode, Oathbreaker. Now, obviously, I believe with Season 4, we had the title Oathkeeper, which was in reference to Brienne's sword that was given to her by Jaime. Now, what this implies to me is that there's going to be some backstabbing happening next week. I don't really know what it means, though, because I'm trying to think of a plot line where an oath will be broken. I thought maybe this is where my boy Littlefinger shows up and Sansa's all like, yo, you broke your oath to protect me. I got that going on. I think Jon Snow is not really going to be breaking his oath because I see it in my book is fulfilled, so he's not really breaking that oath. I don't know. I mean, what do you guys make of that title? I'm really baffled and trying to figure out exactly what angle we're going to be attacking that from.
I think maybe we can kind of look at some of the promises that Arya has made. Kind of in her training and everything. Maybe they'll address a little bit more the mistakes that she's made and kind of her breaking her oath to the Faceless Men. I think Jon Snow 100% is in this scenario. His oath basically to the Night's Watch. I think he's going to put that away and aside now that he has more important things he needs to address and focus on because he is risen and he is a god now. Aside from that, I'm not really sure where else to go. We might visit Dorne again with the Sand Snakes. They kind of broke their oath to their king, really, when they murdered him. So maybe we touch Dorne again next week.
Caleb's probably right. Probably going to be some sort of backstabbing of some kind. I just don't know exactly where it would go. There's no oaths right now, some big oath that has been taken recently. So I don't know exactly where they're going, but we're probably going to enjoy it.
Okay, very, very cool. Well, that'll wrap our discussion of Game of Thrones Season 6, Episode 2, Home. We hope you'll join us again next week when we review Oathbreaker and our review, analysis, recap, and we go Beyond the Wall.